Hello and welcome. Actress Mary Steenburgen's career took off when she was discovered by Jack Nicholson in the reception room of Paramount Pictures when he was casting for his western comedy Goin South. Now, the young actress went on to win a Best Supporting Oscar playing a stripper in the 1980 dramedy Melvin and Howard, and since then Mary's collected more than 30 awards over her prolific career in films and television. Her movies have included Ragtime, Time After Time, Parenthood, Back to the Future 3, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, Philadelphia, and more recently she co-starred with Diane Keaton, Jane Fonda and Candice Bergen in the romantic comedy The Book Club. Now, I caught up with Mary back in 1983, shortly after she portrayed famous American author Marjorie Kinnan Rawling, author of the classic The Yearling, in the film Cross Creek. Among other things, she talked about her unlikely discovery by Jack Nicholson, her role in Melvin and Howard, and its link to reclusive billionaire Howard Hughes.
Mary, you're about to have a second child. How long is it before the baby's due?
The baby's due July 24th.
And what are you hoping for?
I'm hoping for, mainly for a healthy baby, but I'd like to have a little boy because I had a little girl last time. But I'll forget that the second baby's born if it's a girl.
And what about work? Does it mean that you're going to stop working for a year or two, or will you, as soon as the baby's out and ready to be taken around, will you go back to work?
Well, by the time the baby's about 3 months old, it will have been a year since I last worked, and that'll probably be about as long as I'll be able to stand it. So I'll probably pack the baby off with me and take it to another film location. That's what I did with my daughter, and she's turning out great. She's a good traveler.
All the very best with that. And because this is the first interview that you've been seen on Australian television, we'd like to go back a little bit to the start of your film career, because I think it's an interesting story that Jack Nicholson, I understand, discovered you, as they say, not quite the Lana Turner style of thing, but it was...
It was a little bit like that. It certainly had a sort of fairy tale quality to it. I was in New York and had been there for 6 years acting and waitressing, mainly to pay the bills. The acting didn't bring in much money because they were mainly what we call showcases, plays that you did for nothing except for love. And I went to meet someone that had seen me in a show. She was a casting director, and she had called me in, and I didn't know Jack Nicholson would even be there that day, but it turned out that he was. And I was the only girl there that had not been given a script. And he insisted that they give me a script. He later told me because he felt kind of sorry for me because I was the only one there that didn't have one. And I came back the next day. He had told me I could have 10 minutes to read for him. So I came back the next day and I started reading, and he kept me reading for 2 hours. His pizza came, and he goes, sit down, eat the pizza, and keep reading. And I left there that day thinking I would never really hear from him again because I knew he was directing the film, and it was important that he perhaps that he get a big star to play this part. It was a big part. And 2 days later, they were going to fly me out to Hollywood for a screen test. And there were 6 other actresses testing. Again, they had all made films, so I didn't think I would get the part. And indeed I did. It was kind of...
How did you feel when you were told?
I just tried not to burst with joy. I mean, it was just extraordinary. And it was fun. The first phone call was to my mother to tell her what had happened. And the second phone call was to the restaurant to tell them I wouldn't be in for my Friday night shift, that I was going to be the star of the movie with Jack Nicholson.
And they said, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
I don't believe in wasting time at the table.
I couldn't either. I spent a lot of that year feeling like Cinderella and thinking that the clock had to strike 12 at some point. But it didn't.
It hasn't. Cinderella's life still goes on.
Yeah.
One film that you've made, and of course won an Academy Award for it, is just recently opened in Sydney. How did you come to do that, Melvin and Howard? How did you get the role?
Actually, Melvin and Howard is one of the first film scripts I ever read. It was sent not to me, but to Jack Nicholson when we were shooting Goin South in Mexico. He had other commitments and couldn't play the part, and it went to various directors, and it was 2 years later. He gave it to me simply. He said, "You should read a good film script. This is an example of great writing." And of course, Bo Goldman, who had written Cuckoo's Nest, had written Melvin and Howard. I read it and I fell in love with the character of Linda Dumar, but it was 2 years later that I actually went to meet Jonathan Demme, who was going to be the director of it, and read for him. He was interested in somebody else for the part, so I knew I had to do good. I did the best I could, and I got it.
Did you, working on the film, what was it like? You've got some marvellous scenes in it, obviously. I mean, you won an Academy Award, there must be. So what was it like actually working on it? Was there pressures from outside, from the Hughes Corporation and so on?
Well, we were given the impression that there were certain hotels in Las Vegas we were not welcome to stay in. I think that they weren't probably delighted to have this film made because, needless to say, there was a lot of money riding on it from their point of view. Not that our movie was going to decide an issue that had already been decided. They had decided that Melvin, that the will was some sort of a forgery or a fake. But our film took the attitude that it wasn't. And we simply told his story. We didn't alter it in any way. We said exactly what happened to him. And it involves itself really more with his life than it does his experience with Howard Hughes. And it does lead up to that kind of magical event in his life. But you get a sense in the film of real Americana, I think, and of this fellow with big, big dreams that were perhaps just a little too big, maybe, and his wife who had little tiny dreams. And I think that the fun of the movie is their characters, even more perhaps than the whole relationship to Howard Hughes. Although that is beautifully played by Jason Robards, I think that is such a haunting performance. I loved his work in it. It just stays with you. That film, it came out several years ago in America, and it's very much still alive today in cult cinemas and things like that.
Well, you also met Melvin, of course, because he does have a small role in the film. What was your impression? Do you think that, in fact, he's telling the truth?
Absolutely. I can't believe that Melvin is... He's not a very complicated human being. I don't think he could have made this story up, and even more... what would have been even more difficult to have maintained it against all the pressure and the drilling and the lawyers and all the questions he's had over the years. He's just not that kind of person, unless I'm totally wrong about human nature. I think that he believes that he's telling the truth. If he was set up in some way, perhaps, but I honestly believe that he's telling the truth from this point of view. And it's not so far-fetched. Howard Hughes would take midnight rides in the desert. He was virtually a prisoner in Las Vegas in the hotel that he was staying in with this corporation around him. And he was going a little bit mad, I think, in the last days. And he did used to take flights out in the night on a motorcycle into the desert. So it's not so crazy that it wasn't his, that it was his laugh at the world, including this man's name who befriended him.
You mentioned that you've seen the actual... paper and so on.
Well, actually, the will in the film that we're holding in the film is the will itself, yeah.
And what about another thing you mentioned is the pen as well, which seems an extraordinary piece of detail.
Well, the will was written in a sort of by a pen that Howard Hughes liked to use, and he had bought a large stock of these up, and it hadn't even, in fact, been in distribution for several years. So for Melvin to have known this and gotten a hold of it and to somehow been such an amazing forger that you couldn't disprove the forgery, that's a lot of, that's complicated stuff, and I just find it difficult to believe that he did it.
Well, your connection with real-life characters, of course, continues with your latest film, Crossfeed, Marjorie Kinnan Rawling. How much did you know about Marjorie and her writing prior to actually getting the role?
I knew very little. I had read The Yearling. That
Did
was
you see the
all.
film?
I hadn't seen the film, and all of these things I corrected as soon as I got the part. Naturally, I read everything I could get my hands on that she wrote, and we saw The Yearling. I went early to Florida to try and talk to people there and get a sense of her. She died the year I was born in 1953, So consequently, there are a lot of people there who still remember her. It was funny though, when you play somebody who actually lived like this, and you talk to people, you encounter the same thing that you might encounter if you tried to ask your friends their opinion of you. They all disagree. Everybody saw her a different way.
Well, that's good, isn't it? Because then you get a full kind of picture.
You got a whole picture of it, but it also could be a little confusing. In the end, I think that her husband was the person I listened to more than anybody. He's still alive. In fact, he's here at the Cannes Festival. We had him come over, Norton Basson. He's a character in the film played by Peter Correa. And he was very helpful to me about it. And ultimately, I think just reading her memoirs and the things that she wrote, because in a sense that's the most direct communication with her soul of all, because the words live.
Yeah. So what sort of a woman did you see her as? How did you set out to play her, really?
Well, I felt that she was strong in the sense that she made this big move from the New York literary world to an orange grove, which she brought sight unseen in the midst of Florida. That was rather almost a childishly dramatic move in a way, too, but it's something that she felt that she had to do in order to...
Mary, what about the location? Was it in fact shot close to where Marjorie lived?
Yes, as a matter of fact, her house is still there, and it's about 5 miles from where we shot. It was important because much of her writing talked about the actual look of the land and the sense of it, the feel of it. And so it was really important to be close to where she lived. And we were bitten by the same mosquito she was bitten by.
Why wasn't the house used, her actual home?
Because it's right on a main road, and sound-wise it would have been a problem. And we also needed to be able to tear out certain walls and things like that.
And also development, of course, in the intervening 50 years.
Yes.
It changed it.
It did change it. So we would have loved that, but it just wasn't practical. However, the house that's in the film is based on her house and very similar to it.
Now, Australians are going to be particularly curious about the film because of one of our own films in the recent years called My Brilliant Career. Mm-hmm. Have you seen the film? And if so, what kind of thoughts did you have going into this particular role?
I enjoyed that film. I thought about it occasionally because, again, it was about a woman who felt the need to write. She had a similar problem to me, which she triumphed over, obviously, in that it's very difficult to make external what is an internal thing, and that is the writing process or the need of an artist to put pen to paper. It's easy to look a little overly dramatic and self-indulgent with that, and that was a problem that was inherent in it. And so it required a lot of thought on my part, and also I luckily was working with a director that I trusted implicitly. Martin Ritt's an incredible director, so it was a real collaboration between the two of us to bring her to life.
Well, Mary, thank you very much for talking to us, and all the very best with the babe and, of course, your other child.
Thank you. I'm going to get down there eventually.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing you.
I'm going to come to Australia.
In addition to her great acting career, Mary is also a talented singer, comedian, and has also had success as a songwriter. She's been married to sitcom star Ted Danson for more than 30 years and has 2 children with former husband, British star Malcolm McDowell.